Welcome to Tech Talks. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I'm the founder and CEO of Philly Tech, and your host for Tech Talks. Tech Talks is every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So this show is dedicated to everyone who has ideas, founders, co-founders, tech startups, people in the startup ecosystem that have solutions for companies. They're adding value to what they're doing, and really just your ideas that are out there, because everyone has ideas that I feel can come to light if they want to do that. So I'm really excited today. I have a tremendous company with just a tremendous story behind it. Military, Navy SEALs guys, right? This company is called Zeroeyes. And I have the VP of Commercial Strategy and Government Affairs, Kieran Carroll. Kieran. Yeah. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, Zeroeyes, everyone, is extremely exciting tech, right? And we're going to talk about it today. But Kieran, tell us a little bit about your background, right? So, what did you do, before Zeroeyes? What kind of brought you to this path?
Sure, yeah. So I'm from the Washington, D.C. area originally. I was fortunate. I got accepted to the Naval Academy out of high school. So I went to the Naval Academy, and then after that I did 12 years active duty in the Navy, primarily in the special operations community. So worked with a lot of very, very capable guys, deployed 5 or 6 times abroad to places like Afghanistan. And then when I came here to Philly, my wife was an attorney in the city, so I decided to relocate here. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have really any job prospects, but eventually I landed with PwC doing some strategy consulting, and then while I was there for about 18 months or so, I started working with a group of military entrepreneurs here in Philly through a program called Bunker Labs, and I met 2 incredible entrepreneurs named Mike Lahiff and Rob Huberty, and they were 2 of the original co-founders of Zeroeyes.
Yeah, so guys, Zeroeyes is such an exciting company. Right? So military people, Navy SEALs, right? They developed this technology. So tell the audience a little bit about what it is. So what is Zeroeyes?
Yeah, so we're a software company. We use artificial intelligence to detect guns. It's a software that's going to integrate to your existing video cameras. So there's no crazy hardware retrofits. You don't have to replace your cameras. We're completely camera agnostic. And the second a gun is visible, we're able to detect that in real time and then send a series of alerts to whoever needs to know. Yeah. So there's a cutting edge analytic piece to it where we're doing real time object recognition. And then there's all of the communication pathway stuff of how do we integrate to a client's existing access controls or their existing mass notification systems. And then of course we have our own mobile app and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about this for a second, everyone. Let me paint a picture for you. A student is walking into the school or towards the school with a gun, right? Think about that. Their technology will pick up what that gun is, show the gun, and then alerts will go out. Extremely exciting, right? It started in schools, but now I know you've expanded, right, to a lot of different areas. So what are the use cases for this? Because, anyone who wants to protect their employees, obviously students, right? They need this technology. So talk about the use cases, like where is it most used?
Yeah, so to your point, we started in education. I think the emotional association of school shootings really led us to start within the K through 12 space. But what we really realized was after that Walmart shooting that happened last summer in El Paso, Texas, that, hey, we're a great solution for commercial and enterprise businesses as well.
Absolutely.
Particularly from a duty of care perspective and reputational damage and liability that Walmart suffered after that event. And realistically, there are hundreds of millions of commercial security cameras here in the United States and really around the world. So we have the ability to take any camera and turn that into a sensor that's going to detect a visible gun. So when you think about that, it's really powerful.
Right.
And now we've expanded into the federal government, working with the Department of Defense and the military. For some more boutique use cases, but we're really excited to be working with basically everyone at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, so talk about the tech at a high level, right? So it's really exciting how this works, right? I mean, think about a video is on you all the time. You got cameras on you all the time, right? Wouldn't it be nice to know who has a weapon, right? So how does that work, right? So talk to the audience about how that works.
Yeah, so we use artificial intelligence, and more specifically, we use a subset of that called computer vision. Essentially, it's machine learning. So what we realized really early on is that there's a lot of AI companies out there that will go to the internet, for example, and they'll download millions of images of any object, like a cell phone, for example.
Right.
And they'll say, I want to build an algorithm that's going to detect someone using a cell phone. And we started to apply that methodology for guns, and what we realized early on is that that particular methodology did not work well in a deployed environment. So what we decided to do instead was to custom build our own data sets. So we have thousands of hours of guys like myself running around with guns under every type of commercial security camera commonly found in the industry, numerous different types of environments, stuff like schools and office parks and street level cameras, inside, outside, different environmental variables, different lighting, all of these different variables that come into play.
Right.
We custom build our own data sets, and that has led to really great performance. So now, we have this sort of crazy methodology that we use to actually label the data, which is a whole separate sort of discussion. But at the end of the day, you take that data, you bake it into an algorithm. So we use sort of off-the-shelf algorithms that have already been commercially developed, and we put that into a software. And the way this is going to work is that we pull a camera's, it's called an RTSP stream, it's a real-time streaming protocol. It's basically the data pathway that comes off the camera. We pull that into our analytic. It's going to process that down from roughly 30 frames per second to 10 frames per second. That's going to give us 10 opportunities per second to find a gun in that key frame. And that's the only thing we're looking for. So we're not doing facial recognition. We're not doing any other object or behavioral classification. We're just looking for guns. So it makes it really, really fast and really, really accurate.
So I'm curious. So somebody has a gun, right? It's not necessarily like, okay, here's my gun, right? So say, the data is so important to everyone for doing this. So do you have somebody that's got like even a bulge on their holster, or like something in their hand or something behind their back, right? Like,
right.
Do you have those use cases?
So your typical commercial security camera, unfortunately, can't see through clothing, or it's not a thermal sensor. It's not using some sort of millimeter wave technology. It's just a very simple camera. So what you see in field of view is what you can detect.
Right.
So the gun at some level has to be visible. But what we keep seeing with these big mass shooting events is something like 85 to 90% of them start under field of view of an active security camera, and the guy has a visible gun for a period of 3 to 30 minutes. So if you look at Parkland, for example, that guy started in a stairwell, which is a traditional staging area for this type of event, and he was walking around the stairwell for 3 or 4 minutes with his visible gun prior to going into the hallway and starting to shoot people. Columbine, those two guys made numerous trips over a period of 30 minutes in and out of the front door with visible rifles under field of view of an active camera. The Walmart shooting, that guy started in the parking lot, field of view of an active camera, visible rifle, walked around his car a couple times, and then went into the parking lot and then made entry into the building.
Right.
So time and time again, historically, we see this happen. So that presents us with an incredible opportunity to identify that threat prior to someone entering the building or making entry onto the premise, and then being able to detect it and then shoot out a series of alerts.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone, again, this is extremely exciting because I see this as a key differentiator for Zeroeyes, right? The best tech out there. So when a video is seeing you, right, you have to teach the machine to see the gun, right? That's so important, right? And for what you're saying, if it's 85, 90% of the time the gun is visible, right, then it's very important to know that the Zeroeyes team is building their data set. They're building their data set, right? They're military guys. And obviously gals may be there too. But super exciting. So, okay, it recognizes the gun, right? Then what happens?
So within a millisecond, an alert's going to spit out. This alert is going to go really anywhere a client wants it to go. So first things first, we send this critical real-time information. So it's going to be a timestamp, a geolocation, and a keyframe image of what the gun and the shooter look like.
Right.
That's going to go directly to your local 911 call center. We do this through a partnership with a company called Rapid SOS that owns the data pathways, I think, into like 95% of the local 911 dispatch centers in the United States. So automatically, that dispatch operator is going to get it. They're going to get it really quickly, and it's going to be accurate. Unlike a lot of 911 phone calls from these events, which typically are inaccurate or maybe happen 2 to 3 minutes into the event, they're going to get it within seconds, and they're going to be able to start dispatching their resources appropriately. Right. Then simultaneously to that, anywhere a client wants that information to go. So we have a Zeroeyes desktop dashboard that we give every client. It's custom built for them. Typically, they're going to have it up if they have like a security operations center, or if they have, maybe it's a school, the school resource officer will have it up in their office. We have a Zeroeyes mobile app, which anyone can access from anywhere in the world. And then typically we'll also integrate to their existing infrastructure. So if they have access controls and we verify an alert and it goes through our system, we're able to lock the building down or parts of the building, which is really powerful when you think about it. And then a lot of times companies will have an existing mass notification system like an Everbridge or a Mutual Link. Like there's some really big ones out there. So we'll integrate to that. So instead of having our app or having to app fatigue of trying to go through different apps, if they're already using something company-wide, we're just going to integrate to that channel. Right. So we're able to push it out in a numerous different ways, as well as email, text message. There's a lot of redundancy and stuff built into the system. Yeah.
So where are you right now with the company, right? So in terms of, I know when you got funded, I think you got funded a little while back, right? You're scaling. Where are you right now? So what's the status of the company? Yeah. Have you been implementing it in places? Like, how is that going today?
Yeah. So we incorporated back in 2018. The original team was about 10 people. We're now, I think, sitting at about 25 full-time employees, maybe 5 to 10 contractors in the company day to day. We're hiring, and to your point, we're through our seed round. We've raised about $4 million, really starting back in January timeframe. Then kind of COVID happened, slowed some stuff down. But as far as where we are operationally, I think we're in 7 or 8 states at this point. Everything from K through 12 school districts all the way through Fortune 500 companies, places like big box retail, shopping malls, corporate property groups. We're starting to look more and more at like industrials and energy. And then we're also working with the Department of Defense. We recently signed a deal with them, and I think we actually see a lot of room for expansion in the federal sector.
Yeah, so everyone, come back to Tech Talks in a few minutes. This is really been one of my most exciting shows. I mean, this tech can help people, right? So the thing that software companies always say is they want to change the world. They want to help people, right? This tech saves lives. So come on back to Tech Talks in a few minutes. Thanks.
Why buy local? When you shop with local businesses, you're spending your money on more than just the item you're buying. You're adding a building block to your neighborhood. It starts with a single purchase, maybe a cup of coffee, groceries from a local co-op, or even a shiny new bicycle from one of the nearly 28 million small businesses nationwide. Your money doesn't stay in the till for long though. Local business owners use the money to create a lot of economic activity in your neighborhood, like buying from suppliers, many of whom are also local businesses. Paying taxes to the city, which builds and maintains the infrastructure we all rely on. Employing local workers, contributing to 65% of the net new jobs each year. Add this all together and you've got a recipe for a happier, healthier, more connected neighborhood. Now that's an investment worth making.
So welcome back to Tech Talks. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I'm the founder and CEO of Philly Tech, and I'm here with, again, Kieran Carroll, the VP of Commercial Strategy and Government Affairs for Zeroeyes. So it's awesome having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks. This has been great. Yeah, loving it.
So we were talking a little bit at the break about an awesome story with Kenosha, right? So tell the audience what that is. Who is Kenosha?
Yeah.
What'd you do? It sounded pretty exciting. So tell the audience about it.
Yeah. So I mean, we were talking about some use cases, real world use cases. And unfortunately, we haven't found a hostile gun yet. It's going to happen.
Good. It
will. But I was sort of telling an anecdote. Kenosha, Wisconsin has been in the news a lot lately because a lot of unrest is going on there. And about 2 weeks ago, we started getting real-world detections from Kenosha, Wisconsin. We're deployed to a high school in Kenosha. And as it turns out, the National Guard was actually staging out of that high school. So at about midnight one night, we started getting real-world detections of guys with rifles and pistols. No one had bothered to tell us. So obviously we, called people at the school and said, hey, you guys probably are aware, but there's a bunch of guys, in uniform with guns.
Yeah.
And over the course of the next couple of weeks, we got hundreds and hundreds of real world detections. And then one day the high school called us up and said, hey, the Secret Service is actually going to be at Bradford High School. The president is going to address the nation from Bradford. So we sort of ended up providing, some indirect protection for the president while he was on site. Mm-hmm. And of course, the entire time we were detecting like the Secret Service counter-assault guys with their guns out and staging there just in case anything happened. But really interesting, I think, real-world use case, and it shows that the product does work, in fact. So.
Right. Yeah. What's really cool, and I was thinking about this. Obviously, when you go to a school or you go into some government building, it's kind of news, right?
Sure.
So something might not happen at those places because if people are like, why would I do if I know this Zeroeyes stuff is here? So, I think you indirectly save people just by bringing Zeroeyes into your company, right? You don't want events to happen, bring it in because we tell people about it, right? And we make it like a thing, like you're doing this.
Yes, some clients are very open and actually want that out there, and then others are not. And I think, not every client wants to admit they might have a gun problem at their big box retail location or something like that. But I think to your point, right, it is a little bit of a deterrent. If I was going to go commit an act of mass violence, I probably wouldn't do it at the place that is already set and has a proactive and actionable solution in place. I'd go somewhere that's probably a softer target.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, so tell the audience about the future, right? When I think about the amount of opportunity that you have, everybody knows you're on video all the time, right? Video is tracking you all over the place, right? So what's the future? Where's the future for Zeroeyes?
Yeah, so the video analytics space I think is really exciting. It's been evolving very fast over the last several years, to the point now where we can take analytics and actually put them on the edge of a camera that's equipped to process stuff on the edge. So your big camera manufacturers are rolling out these edge devices that are specifically designed to run analytics. So stuff like facial recognition. In our particular opinion, facial recognition is a little bit dicey politically. It's got some headwinds against it. I don't know if you guys saw in Portland, they actually just outlawed all uses of facial recognition citywide. But that being said, I think it's still really powerful. I think eventually this country is going to figure that out legally, and facial recognition is going to be part of our everyday life. And that sort of opens the pathway to more object and behavioral classification. Right. So something that Zeroeyes is looking at. Eventually, we're going to go beyond guns. The Department of Defense, we think, will eventually want us to do stuff, probably like bigger guns to start, crew-served weapons like belt-fed machine guns and that kind of thing. But where this is going is we're going to take this out of just doing existing commercial cameras. We're going to put this on stuff like small handheld drones. We're going to put this on unmanned ground vehicles, so essentially robots, stuff like truck-mounted sensors.
I'm thinking satellites
aerostats,
too, right?
Satellites.
That's tough. But I can see.
It's eventually, yeah. And a lot of this stuff's already sort of happening at that level, sort of national level. They call it ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance satellites.
Right.
So, they're looking at bigger objects, but I think eventually, right, we'll probably get there as an industry, and we're obviously really excited to be on the forefront of that.
Yeah, so one area that must be exciting, and again, maybe you're involved with some of these things, is embedded, right? So if you can get into these video, when he said on the edge, right, I believe that means that the video manufacturer that manufactures the actual camera would put it like in their tech, right? Is that kind of somewhat of what it means by that?
Yeah, essentially, right? So I think where these guys are going is like, they're essentially going to be a Netflix provider. Not only are they going to provide the camera as a hardware piece, but they're also going to be like a monthly subscription to, check mark whatever analytic you want. Do you want weapons detection in your camera? Check. Do you want facial? Check. Do you want, if in a retail environment, do you want some sort of other object classifier? Yeah. So consumers will have the ability to basically custom build how they want their camera and then where they want that analytic to go. So it's really exciting. I think we're probably 5 or 10 years away from like mass adoption, but that's quickly catching up.
So what do you think is the next? I mean, like you said earlier, it's pretty cool. I mean, if a company comes to you with a different use case, right? So where's the next? So guns, and then you said, what are the next few use cases in terms of you think recognizing things?
Yeah, so I think we'll probably do some predictive stuff around maybe behavior. We're looking at ways to sort of characterize full motion video. I think other objects, stuff like knives, for example, particularly in Europe right now, that they have a huge knife problem in the United Kingdom. And these aren't like your small, pocket knives. These are like giant 9-inch blades, like almost machetes. So we've been actually approached a couple times about, hey, can we start looking at a data set for that? So I think we'll probably, end up getting there. I think there's like boutique use cases for stuff like cell phones, particularly from like a security perspective of like, maybe you don't want people with cell phones in a certain area. So there's that. We've even been approached to do stuff like aerosol cans. When you think about like all the unrest that's happening and people doing graffiti on government buildings or private buildings, having the ability to recognize when folks have aerosol cans and trigger a bunch of alerts might be valuable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways we could take this.
Yeah. So I'm just curious too. What does the VP of Commercial Strategy and Government Affairs do? So what's your responsibility?
It's an important sounding title, but we're a startup, so everyone has an overinflated title. But basically what I do is I make sure that all of our efforts are aligned between basically all 5 of our business units. One of the big pushes that we're trying to get to this year is we're trying to get more marquee logos. I think right now we have maybe 4 or 5, Fortune 1000 type logos. I think eventually by the end of the year we're going to try to push this into 10 or 15. And then I also on our government side, we see a lot of growth in government. So a lot of that is identifying where the government specifically has pots of money allocated towards either AI or enhanced security. Like for example, the DoD has $25 billion earmarked specifically for AI over the next several years, and then the larger government enterprise as well. So your 3-letter agencies, Department of Justice, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, I think are really interesting to us. I think State Department's really interesting, just from like a broad use case for embassy protection and consulate protection, residencies is interesting. And then eventually we're gonna have to employ probably some sort of lobby ground game. I think the quickest way to win the education space is once we gain a foothold in a state and we have some happy clients. We're gonna bring the governor in. We're gonna say, hey, we're not a political company, but we see this as a bipartisan win. I think anyone can get behind more safety, and particularly cost-effective safety that works for students. And we're gonna say, hey, we think it's valuable for you to go appropriate funds at the state legislator level, and we can push this into every K through 12 school in Florida, for example.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're trying to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think about your background. I mean, you're PwC. PwC strategy, management consulting, right? So it almost seems like you're the chief strategy officer. Right, I mean that's what it's almost. Don't tell anybody that.
Yeah, I think we have like 10 guys with MBAs, so I think everyone contributes to strategy. But yeah, I think I'm thinking about it directionally that way. I know Mike Lahef, our CEO, and Rob Huberty, our COO, absolutely are as well. And I mean, we have a great team. As you said, we're a bunch of former, primarily guys from the special operations community. I think we have like 6 or 7 former Navy SEALs in the company at this point. I think we've hit our quota for SEALs.
Right.
So now we're trying to find like some regular people. But yeah, everyone's a strategist. Everyone brings something and contributes something to that. Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, people have often said to me that I look like I'm in the military. Like they ask me that all the time, and I relate really well to military guys and gals because I played a lot of sports, right? Sure. But talk about the mentality of your company.
Yeah.
Right. So, you have your founders. Talk about what is having this mentality, this work, this culture. What's that like at Zeroeyes?
Yeah. So we're very, very team focused. Almost, I don't want to say it's a detriment, but my wife will tell you that. My wife has often said like, oh, it's almost like you're back in the military.
Right.
It's very much like a team, being at a SEAL team or something like that. I don't think it's quite as bad as that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, guys are fully committed to this, right? Like we started this company because we want to stop an active shooter event or help mitigate an active shooter event.
Yeah.
And that is our sole focus. And even through COVID, a lot of our competitors got distracted with other sort of object classifiers, like fever detection was a really big one. We didn't pivot. We stayed true, on a true course because that's what we want to do and that's what we want to bring to market.
Right.
And I've often told people I think guys on the team would work for free because I think this is as equal to or greater than any mission that we ever did while we were on active duty. I think Rob and Mike will tell you the same thing.
So again, everyone, this is unbelievably exciting technology. Zeroeyes, right? If you know anyone in any type of leadership position that wants to improve safety of all their people, let Zeroeyes know about it. So we got to wrap up. So sure. Tell the audience where they can find Zeroeyes, where they can find you.
Sure.
And how could you get some help from our audience?
Yeah, to Michael's point, we're always looking to connect with decision makers at various companies or K through 12 districts, for example. We think that our solution is great for liability and reputational damage and duty of care, which is really what it's all about for us. Zeroeyes has a web presence. I think we're on every form of social media, so www.zeroeyes.com. We have a great YouTube channel where we do live demos from client sites so people can actually see that the solution works. And then I think we're on like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. I think we're on all of that. And then as far as myself goes, the easiest way to probably reach me is Kieran Carroll at zeroeyes.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, so please feel free to drop a connection.
Yeah, great. So it was awesome again having you on the show.
Yeah.
So great stuff. And everybody come back every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. We're going to be talking to founders. We're going to be talking to people, CTOs, executives like Kieran on the Zeroeyes team. Extremely exciting technology that's really changing the planet and saving lives. So come on back to Tech Talks next week. Talk to you soon. Thanks.